my new boss, told me he wanted us to follow the employee handbook to the letter. No exceptions. He thought it would increase productivity. He had no idea he'd just handed me the very weapon I would use to get him fired. For 15 years, I ran the most efficient department in the company. My name is Mark, I'm 45 years old, and I'm a logistics expert, which is a boring way of saying I solve impossible problems under insane deadlines. My team, a small tight-knit group of 6 seasoned professionals, were masters of our craft. We didn't just know the rules. We knew why the rules existed, and more importantly, we knew when to bend them to get the job done. We were a well-oiled machine, respected by our clients and trusted by upper management. We were good. And then our old boss retired, and the company decided we needed new blood. They sent David. David was 28 years old, fresh out of a top-tier business school, with a shiny new MBA, and a vocabulary that consisted almost entirely of corporate buzzwords. In our first meeting, he didn't ask us what we did. He told us he was here to optimize our workflow and synergize our deliverables. He stood in front of a whiteboard and drew a series of overlapping circles and arrows that meant absolutely nothing, all while talking about leveraging our core competencies and shifting the paradigm. My team and I, with a combined 80 years of real-world experience, just sat there, exchanging furtive, weary glances. We'd seen his type before, a suit with a spreadsheet, who thinks they understand a factory floor they've never set foot on. The first month was a masterclass in incompetence. He would sit in on our calls with high-priority clients and interrupt our technical explanations to ask pointless jargon-filled questions that made us look like amateurs. He demanded we create complex, progress-tracking spreadsheets that took more time to fill out than the tasks themselves. He was a ghost in the machine, a manager who didn't manage anything, but simply created more work. He was insecure, terrified even. He knew, on some deep level, that his team could do their job perfectly without him, that he was a completely redundant cog in a machine that was already running smoothly. And a man like David can't handle feeling redundant. If he couldn't contribute through competence, he would contribute through control. And that's when his reign of true micromanagement began. It started with an email sent at 5:03 p.m. on a Friday. Subject: Mandatory Policy Adherence Initiative. In the email, David announced that, effective immediately, our department would be adhering to the official company employee handbook, with 0 deviation. He claimed this was to ensure uniformity and procedural integrity. We all knew what it was. It was an assertion of power. The handbook was a relic, a 100-page behemoth written in the 1980s and randomly amended over the years. It was filled with arcane, inefficient, and often contradictory rules that everyone in the company ignored because following them would make it impossible to get any work done. It was a legal document, not a functional one. And David had just made it our Bible. The next Monday, the atmosphere in the office was thick with dread. David walked in, with a smug smile on his face, a freshly printed copy of the handbook in his hand. "Morning, team," he said cheerfully. "Let's make sure we're all logging our arrival times as per Section 4, subsection B." That was the beginning of the end. Our productivity, once the highest in the company, plummeted. Simple tasks that took minutes now took hours. Ordering a new toner cartridge for the printer, which used to be a single email to the supply department, now required us to fill out a Form C-7 requisition in triplicate, get a manager's signature, David's of course, and hand-deliver it to an office in another building, as per the 1993 addendum. My senior engineer, a man who could practically build a server from spare parts in his garage, had to stop work for an hour to get approval for a software patch. The team's morale disintegrated. These were proud, skilled professionals, and we were being treated like untrustworthy children. The casual, collaborative energy of our office was replaced by a quiet, simmering resentment. I tried to talk to David. I went into his office and calmly explained that our efficiency was built on years of experience, on knowing which corners could be cut without compromising quality. I told him the handbook was crippling our ability to serve our clients. He just leaned back in his chair, a condescending smirk on his face. "Mark," he said, as if explaining something to a toddler, "I understand that change can be difficult, but what you call cutting corners, the company calls procedural variance, and I'm here to eliminate it. Just follow the rules. It's not that hard." I walked out of his office, my fists clenched, my jaw tight with a rage I hadn't felt in years. He wasn't listening. He was a zealot, and the handbook was his scripture. The breaking point came a month later. We were working on the biggest project of the year for our top client, a multi-million-dollar account. We were already behind schedule, thanks to David's bureaucratic nightmare. The final phase of the project required a critical piece of hardware from the IT department. Normally, I'd send an email, and we'd have the hardware in an hour. But David insisted we follow protocol. According to a rule written in 1989, before email was even a thing, acquiring interdepartmental hardware required a physical asset transfer form. This form needed to be signed, in person, by 3 different department heads in a specific, sequential order. A process that would take, at best, 2 to 3 days. It was insane. It was going to blow our deadline. It was going to cost us the client. I went to David, practically begging him to see reason. I laid out the timeline, the client's expectations, the millions of dollars at stake. "This is a critical situation, David," I pleaded. "We need to circumvent the process." He just shook his head. "A failure to plan on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine, Mark," he said, quoting a stupid poster he'd hung on his wall. "Follow the protocol." And then, he did something that sealed his fate. He forwarded our entire email exchange to his own boss, the vice president, with a note at the top. FYI, it read, "Mark's team is experiencing some timeline challenges due to their difficulty adapting to standard operating procedures. I am managing the situation and ensuring full compliance." He was throwing us under the bus, preemptively blaming us for the failure he himself was engineering. He was building a paper trail to save his own skin, and he was using our careers as the kindling. I stared at that email on my screen, and a profound calm washed over me. The anger was gone, replaced by a terrifying clarity. I was done trying to fight his stupid rules. I was done trying to reason with an idiot. A quiet, dangerous smile spread across my face. He wanted compliance. Fine. I was about to give him the most perfect, the most beautiful, the most catastrophic compliance he had ever seen. I called a team meeting in the conference room without inviting David. I closed the door, and I laid out the plan. "He wants to play by the book," I said, my voice low and even. "So that's what we're going to do. We are going to become the most compliant employees this company has ever seen. We will follow every single rule in this stupid book, perfectly, zealously, without exception. No more using our experience. No more efficient shortcuts. From now on, we are robots, and this book is our operating system." I looked around the table at their tired, frustrated faces. I saw confusion, then doubt, and then, one by one, I saw the slow, dawning realization. A grim, dangerous smile started to spread from face to face. For the first time in months, I saw a spark in their eyes. It was the spark of malicious compliance. The next morning, the chaos began. It was beautiful. My junior engineer spent the first hour and a half of his day performing a pre-workstation diagnostic, as outlined in a 1996 IT memo included in the handbook's appendix. My senior programmer put in a formal, written request to David to approve a new pin from the supply closet, as the handbook stated that all writing implements were subject to managerial approval. David, confused, but pleased by our sudden devotion to the rules, signed off on everything. The main event, of course, was the hardware request for our big client. I filled out the physical asset transfer form with painstaking detail. Then, as per the rules, I walked it over to the first department head for her signature. She was in a meeting, so I waited for an hour and a half. I got her signature, then walked to a different building to get the signature of the second department head, who it turned out was out for a long lunch. I left the form on his desk and walked back. A process that should have been a 10-second email had now eaten up half my day, and it wasn't even close to being done. For the next 2 days, my department became a vortex of perfect, rule-based inefficiency. We held mandatory 15-minute ergonomic safety breaks every hour, as per a wellness initiative from 2003. We submitted every single client email to David for pre-approval of external communications, a process that delayed our response times from minutes to days. David was drowning. His desk was a mountain of ridiculous paperwork he had insisted upon. He was spending his entire day signing off on paperclip requests and chair adjustment reports. He was so bogged down in the minutiae of his own stupid system that he had no idea that the multi-million-dollar project was now grinding to a complete and utter halt. The deadline was Friday at 5 p.m. At 4 p.m., the storm broke. The CEO herself, a formidable woman named Ms. Jennings, stormed into our department, flanked by the VP and a terrified-looking David. "Mark," she boomed, her voice echoing in the quiet office. "Our biggest client is on the phone, threatening to sue us for breach of contract. They say the project is dead in the water. What the hell is going on?" David immediately jumped in. "I've been telling you, Ms. Jennings," he said, pointing a trembling finger at me. "Mark and his team have had severe performance issues. They've been unable to meet their deadlines." I let him finish. And then, with the calm of a man who knew he held a royal flush, I stood up. "He's right," I said. "We have been unable to meet our deadlines. And it's because we have been following our manager's explicit, written directives to adhere to the company handbook without deviation." I gestured to my desk, where I had neatly arranged every single form, every signed piece of paper, every email from David insisting on protocol. For example, I said, picking up the still unsigned hardware transfer form, "This critical component has been held up for 3 days because the handbook requires a physical signature from a department head who has been out of the office at a conference since Wednesday. We were forbidden from using email to expedite this." My entire team stood up behind me, one by one, each holding their own mountain of paperwork, their own evidence of the insane, productivity-killing rules we had been forced to follow. We presented a united, professional front of perfect, documented compliance. The CEO's eyes darted from the mountain of paperwork to my calm face, and then to David, whose face had gone a pale, sickly white. He started to stammer. But, the rules. I just wanted them to follow the rules." Ms. Jennings turned to him, her voice dropping to a dangerously quiet level. "You are the manager, David. Your job is to facilitate success, not to weaponize a 40-year-old book of nonsense. Your job is to lead a team of experts, not to treat them like kindergartners. Their job is to use their experience to get results, and you stop them from doing that." She looked at the client file, then back at David. "Your procedural integrity initiative is about to cost this company millions of dollars in penalties, not to mention our biggest client." She didn't shout. She didn't have to. "Pack your things," she said softly. "Security will escort you out." We all watched in silence as David, the brilliant young MBA, the paradigm shifter, the optimizer of workflows, was quietly and efficiently fired, escorted from the building like a common criminal. Once he was gone, Ms. Jennings turned to me. A slow, weary smile touched her lips. "Mark," she said, gesturing to the mountain of paperwork, "take all of this, and the handbook, and put it through a shredder. Then, get on the phone with our client. Tell them their hardware is on its way, and do whatever it takes to get this project done." She paused at the door. "From now on, you're the manager of this department. Your only rule is to keep being the best. Understood?" That night, my team and I worked until 3 a.m., free from the shackles of stupid rules, using our skills, our experience, and our instincts. We did 3 days' worth of work in 5 hours, and we saved the project. We never spoke of our week of perfect, malicious compliance again. We didn't have to. We had taken back our department and reminded the entire company that true productivity isn't found in a rulebook. It's found in trusting your people to do the job you hired them to do. And that was a revenge far sweeter than just getting a bad boss fired. It was justice.